Everybody, thanks for watching and thanks for taking the time to purchase and support. I'm known for really getting into the Bible. Most of the videos I post has to do with the Bible and biblical religion, but it's a lot that people need to understand, and it's really tough to get it all into one video or a series of videos because there's so much and there's so many different levels to the Bible. Whenever you want to speak on one topic in the Bible, you have to be prepared to make multiple, like 3 or 4, because every story or parable in the Bible is basically talking about multiple things. It's very confusing, and it's riddles, and it's allegorical stories, and it's talking about multiple things. Most people will never get it. Religion is basically designed for people to accept, to be told, and to accept blindly without any proof. And preachers, of course, we're much older now. They wasn't taught the correct way to teach the Bible, one, let alone the true history and validity of the book itself. So the parables is real esoteric and they're deep. So who is God? Again, you need to understand God is a man-made word and term. It's just that simple. It's something that Europeans made up. But who is God? And we are told the God of the Bible is God, the God of all, the God who created everything. So we have to look at this God in the Bible, and that's really what this is about, for you to understand what's being said and how deep it really is, because it's super deep. Who is the God of the Bible? Who is this dude? And if you follow my videos, we got into this a little bit, but not as deep as we're going to get into this video, on this level. But you have to look at so many different things and what the Bible is talking about and how things are worded to see who they're speaking to. Like, who exactly are they talking about? You have to understand when the Bible is talking about different people, multiple people, but it reads like it's talking about the same people. It reads like it's talking about these same people and it's the same story, but it's giving you multiple people. See, religion, the Bible, and the way it's been taught has your mind locked in a time, in a place, fictional. Supposed to be real, but it's fictional. We can't say for sure the Garden of Eden existed and where this place was. We can't say for sure where these Hebrews were supposed to be during this time. They give it a name that's supposed to be a name we should know, like Israel. But, we didn't get the name Israel until we start getting biblical stories. So you have to know what is it talking about? What's going on? Get your mind out of this whole timeline, this story, this place we can't prove exists. And we know this is supposed to happen long ago. But the thing is, we got to remember, King James Version, what we know about the Bible, for the most part, for everybody, especially in America, comes from the King James Version, which was written between 1604 and 1611. So we're talking about a book that's written after the fact, long after the fact. And then when we go back to the manuscripts, the earliest ones, we see it is completely different. It's a lot different. So we have to keep these things in mind and remember that different Bibles, when they gave us the older versions, they were given to take care of the people who existed during a certain time. So even after we get the, Vetus Latina, the Latin Vulgate, or what have you, and then we get, John Wycliffe and John Huston giving us English Bibles, and basically the kings after this, the Bishop's Bible, the Great Bible with Henry VIII and Queen Mary, these are 4 different times. The Protestant book, the book against the Protestants, the book against Rome, the English Bible, so on and so forth. Different times, different people, different things they wanted to convey. Now, if we start to go back and compare the Bibles, you'll see the difference. And it's just something that, people don't have the time to do. But there's certain passages you can go through and see what they're talking about. Like, if you go to the, original King James Bible, remember, there is no J's. So it's going to be spelled different. And I showed you guys with Codex Sinaiticus that you're not even going to find Jesus, full name in there. So this changes everything. So we have to understand this book is put a certain way for certain times and certain people. That's important. And it's going to help us as we go along, because we need to understand and identify who these people are. And when you begin to understand, you see clearly. When you understand esoterically what it's giving you, the Bible is clearly separating black and white. And that's the thing. Remember, they're not definitive about who was black and who was white for a reason. It's a part of the esoteric understanding. And it's going to make a lot of sense now because you have to think, why not just make that clear? If you understand how the future is going to be and how this generation is going to be, you understand black and white is important. So they're giving you this esoterically. So let's go here in Genesis. This is Genesis chapter 11. This is important. It says, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, and they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick, and burnt them thoroughly. And they had brick for a stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach into heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and tower which the children of men builded. Understand, this is important to pick out, which the children of men builded. Understand when it's describing these people, it's saying which the children of men builded. It didn't say which God's people or the children of gods, the children of men build it. It's important. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. I'm going to stop there. So now, what's the problem here? What did we just read? We read that the Lord confounded their speech, right? And basically split them up, right? But this is in chapter 11. If you go back to chapter 10, it says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families and their nations. And then it goes on to basically say the same thing. We get to Ham, and it says the same thing. We get over to 31 and 32. It says, these are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, and their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, and generations and their nations. And they were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. So it's already mentioning that the people are separated, that the people are divided, that the people have different tongues. But then you go to 11 and it says, and the whole earth was of one language. And then it goes on to say later that he scattered them. So who is he talking about? Who is he talking about when we just read before that the people have their tongues? Basically, we understand what tongue means. It means a language. It's telling us that the people were divided, that they was after their own tongue, meaning the people went their separate ways and had their different languages. But then 11 says the whole earth. So you have to discern and understand what it's talking about. This is what I mean when it's saying talking about different people. Now, the clue is in the verse itself. When you go in and you start reading and you get to the part when he says Babel, therefore he called it Babel, right? So it's trying to give you who they're specifically talking about in Genesis 11, because this is just a separate story out of nowhere that basically goes off of what they're saying. Because if you go to verse 10 of that, it's basically going back into Shem where it left off. So this is just like a separate story out of nowhere, but it's talking about Babel. So when you go back, Genesis chapter 10, verse 10, it says, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, right? So of course, people are going to read that and say Babel, they're talking about Babylon. And we understand Nimrod, who basically ruled Babylon. And you have to understand where this comes from, where Nimrod comes from. And then it tells you in the verse before that Kush begot Nimrod. And we know Kush is one of the sons of Ham. Ham, we know, is black. And it's giving you that Kush because if you go back to Genesis 2, it's describing Kush as Ethiopia. It's Ethiopia. And we know in the new translations, that word Kush is Ethiopia. So now we got to understand. We got to step back for a second because a lot of people are just not grasping what the hell it's talking about. So Ham, Shem, Japheth, what? They are sons of Noah, right? So now if it's telling you that these people or having anything to do with the people coming from Ethiopia or that region will tell you that these people are black. So why are we discussing or have we ever discussed anything being white when it pertains to the Bible and these people? Clear as day, the Bible is telling you something, but we have been told something different. But the Bible is giving you what it's talking about. We've been seeing these images. We're going to get into all this in this video. But we've been seeing these images. And they would believe that these people were white because that's what they're showing us. But clear as day, Ethiopia. Who was it talking about? Clearly, it's talking about African people, black people. Kush begot Nimrod, which is telling you clear as day the Assyrians and Babylonians, which is talk about Syria in the Bible. The Assyrians and Babylonians were black. Clear as day. It's giving you that. So clearly in this part, Genesis 11, 1 through 9, it's clearly talking about a specific people in this portion. And it's talking about African people, black people. So now you got to dig deeper, understand why it's saying all this and what all of this really means. Because now it's giving you these people, these Africans, we need to go and fuck with them. And who is we? Let us go down and confound their speech. Who are they talking about? Who is it referring to? Now, we're going to get into this more, but you have to still think. Okay, you have Ham, Shem, Japheth. We got black Hebrew Israelites walking around. We are God's chosen people. We are set apart. They walking around talking all this E1B1 DNA stupid bullshit when, wait a minute, all these people come from Noah's line. They come from the same mother. You know, they're supposed to be brothers and everybody after them will be related. So how specifically is the line of Shem, which we're going to talk about Eber and Abram, which is the line that the Hebrews come from, which goes back to Shem. How are they set apart? And then it's not about the whole, cursed be Canaan. And that's what the Bible reads. The whole Bible verse, when, you seeing your father naked, so you're cursed. So you have to be subject to everybody else because you've seen your, father naked. That don't make sense. It's giving you, an excuse right there that some people used during slavery. But it's clearly and specifically pointing out a group of people, certain people. And then it's telling you that these people are set apart. They're special. These are God's chosen. Why? So it's telling you that these people were one of one speech. They were united, basically. So what is the reason for them going down to confound their speech and scare them? The Bible says that they were trying to build a tower that reached to heaven. I mean, think about that. Trying to build a tower that reaches there. That sounds stupid anyway. That sounds impossible. You can't build no tower that reaches into heaven. And then if, the earth, this people are supposed to know God created the earth and God is the God of the Bible they're talking about. They would know how the earth works, and that's impossible. First of all, they would know no human can climb that high, right? Second, they would know we have this thing called the troposphere, stratosphere. We have the, solar winds and radiation, and not to mention the fire that's supposed to be blowing around our planet, according to them, the sun. So no human could do such a thing. So it's not talking about, they're trying to climb out of the planet. Like they're trying to build a tower that leads to the planet. What could it leads out of the planet? What could they possibly be talking about esoterically? These people were trying to leave the earth. We got to stop these people from leaving earth. So we got to confound their speech and stop them from leaving the planet, from leaving earth. Why? And this is a much deeper part we'll get into towards the end of the video. We'll come back to this because you have to think about that. That's something we can't just overlook what it's saying. So clearly, of course, you'll look at it and say, well, if they related and it's telling us that Ham is black, they all must be black. Which is why the black Hebrews are saying, well, Hebrews is black, lost tribe was black. So they all must be. And then we understand that, everybody else came from us. But again, it's still giving you a specific people. Now, we know out of Shem, we still get white folks. And this is supposed to be how they will look at it, who the Israelites are. It's them. And just like how it says in the Bible, you have Kush, Ethiopia. We know it's black. We know, out of Kush, we get Nimrod and we get Babel. So just like how Canaan or how Ethiopia is Kush, Canaan we know is Israel. And same thing, black. So even before they even got there, this is black people. So when you start to understand the story, and then we find ourselves into the whole Exodus story, and then you have the ancient Egyptians ruling, obviously Egypt, and these people are supposed to be enslaved in Egypt. They're ruling Israel, obviously the ancient Egyptians. So it's to get you to understand, hey, we was already here. There are people here already established kingdoms. And then somehow, supposedly we get these Hebrews captive, right? But again, we'll come back to this. They're talking about specific people. So it's clearly giving you these people. And then now we get to the separation part, as I said. You see Shem and everybody that comes out of this. And we have the black Hebrew Israelites to tell you, well, again, like I said, Shem is where the Israelites come from. But they're clearly showing you that all these people was black. See, they can't fathom what it's actually saying. They're saying clearly they're all black. Now, as I said before, like the black Hebrews are on point as far as this whole race thing and understanding what that's talking about. Clearly, they were all black. They had to be. And they're telling you this with the whole Ethiopian connection, telling you this, everybody was black. But out of this specific group of black people, we get everybody else because we know everybody comes from us. So they're saying out of Shem, comes everybody else, white people, Hispanic, so on and so forth. And this is just basically getting in line with what I talked about before, how they colonized and went out and mixed in and everything like that. It's saying these are the Shemitic people, right? Esoterically telling you this in the Bible. So again, according to their whole, myth or, story, they believe that out of all the people that came out of Ham, Shem, Japheth, you have Ham, African race, we're cursed. Everybody else is cool. We're cursed. But then you have to factor in the fact that, if this is African people, look at what happened to us in real life. To try to fit and make this curse fit, look at what it's saying. And remember, these tribes and people who would go out and kill and take their stuff, we're talking about African people. We're talking about their own family when you really understand. So again, when we go back into the Bible, when we look at Genesis 10, 15 through 18, and look at what it's talking about, look at the people, the Girgashites and the Hivites. These are the Jebusites it's talking about. These are the people who they go out and utterly destroy, who God commands them to destroy, African people. And so when I said to people, talked about this in previous video, when I said these people, these tribes that's in the Bible that are being conquered and killed by the Israelites are African tribes.